right, everybody. Hello and welcome to the Queen City Soccer Show. I'm your host, Level Up Luke, and I am joined by Cole Godfrey. Cole, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Excited for the season to start. We've done our preseason preview or season preview episode with the Charlotte Soccer Show guys. That is out on the airwaves now, and now we have another amazing guest for our listeners today.
Yes, welcome to the Charlotte FC Media Series, Carroll Walton. Carroll, it is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you
Uh,
so much for having me. I can't believe I got to follow the Charlotte Soccer Show, guys. That's tough.
well, I'll tell you what, you're probably the most qualified, and you actually got a shout out on the show from the boys there. You
Nice.
guys know Carol. She's with the Charlotte Ledger. She has the Futbol Fridays newsletter, which is essential reading for Charlotte FC fans. I've been subscribed for being what, probably 2 years now at least, and read it every week. Carol, thank you so much for what you do. Can you tell the folks a little bit about you and your coverage of Charlotte FC?
Sure. I've got a background, I've been in sports writing basically for about 25, 30 years. I started out covering high school football and college football and basketball and ended up doing baseball. I covered the Atlanta Braves for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution for a lot of years, either as their first beat reporter or their backup beat reporter. And I grew up in Charlotte and moved home about 2014 to get married and start having babies. And they're not babies anymore. But I have a good friend, Edwin Peacock, who knew I was into sports and then he introduced me to Tony Messia, who is our esteemed editor at the Charlotte Ledger, and we got together and literally decided in about a couple weeks, hey, there's this new soccer club here. I have a feeling it could fall through the cracks in terms of traditional coverage. Would you be interested? And I was absolutely interested because it's something I hadn't done before, but something I was interested in. And, I played soccer, but it's been really fun at this point, kind of in my life and career, to get to try something new and learn as I go. And it's really been cool, as you guys know, to kind of be involved from the ground up. I think that's something that's going to be special for a lot of fans, sort of in this age range that we've been there for it all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. Um, so in terms of your coverage, I know Cole probably can't wait to get to his top question about your previous coverage in Atlanta. So I'll turn it over to Cole here.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to. I was telling Danny and Johnny from the Charlotte Soccer Show how much I enjoyed y'all's interview and getting to learn more about you and your past. And so I know you on that interview you mentioned that you got to do some work with Chipper Jones.
That's right. Yeah, I Chipper and I are about the same age, and he was coming into the league about the time that I was a rookie reporter at the Macon Telegraph, and so he and we kind of had, he was on a bit of a different trajectory than I was, but I covered him over the years and ended up when it was time for him to retire, I sent him, literally sent him a text message, and I just said, "All right, you ready to do a book?" And he was like, "All right." Um, and there were a couple details we had to iron out after that phone call, but it ended up being just a handshake agreement between him and me, and that led to writing a book with him, which was just fantastic fun. He's a Cole. It sounds like you're a Braves fan. I just from the accent, alone, I'm just going on a limb there. You're in Braves country, and yeah, but it's been fantastic it taught me a lot as a reporter, and I'd like to think I bring some of that to my coverage now with Charlotte FC. It's taught me to be a better listener, um, and to go deep, and that's kind of what I enjoy. I love the stuff on the field, and just as equally enjoy getting to know these players off the field too.
Yeah, and I am a huge Braves fan. I've been going to Braves games, gosh, since I was a kid. I played baseball in college. I was always a baseball guy, and but I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina. So when they used to have the Greenville Braves, Chipper actually was they were an affiliate of the Atlanta Braves. So I actually got to see Chipper and like Tom Glavine and a bunch of them play for Greenville, and got to go out on the field with them and stuff as a kid. I got a picture with me out there on the field with them when I was a kid. So that's really awesome. My question, kind of leapfrogging off of that, is obviously with that kind of coverage compared to Charlotte FC, um, what have you found in the difference in coverages and the difference in sports really in the landscape? What have you found that you like or enjoy more about getting to cover soccer and Charlotte FC?
Well, it's nice that there aren't as many games
True.
because as you know, there are a whopping 162 in a baseball schedule, and we get about 33. Well, just in the MLS season, I'm sure there'll be
Mhm.
a bunch more with US Open Cup and Lee's Cup this year, and hopefully postseason. But
Yeah.
it's a really nice rhythm. I like it. Once a week, once or twice a week, you have some build up to the game. I mean, just on a personal level, I have a family. I'm a mom of three boys now, and so it allows me to have a life where baseball is really, really
Yeah.
tough because it's every night and every weekend. Um, and I really like the rhythm of it. I mean, baseball is similar to me. You can sit there and have a beer and talk to the person you're with, while the game's going on, and enjoy it. And I think soccer is similar. I mean, you have waves where you're going to jump up and down and really get involved, but and it's continuous. I mean, baseball is obviously not continuous, but there aren't as many awful breaks to me. Watching NFL games are just can be brutal because the timeouts are so long and you're like, wait, what quarter are we in? What's the score? What's happening? And I feel like baseball is just rhythmically easier to keep up with than soccer too.
Yeah, and the last 5 minutes of a basketball game can go on for 45 minutes. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, I agree with baseball. That grind for a beat reporter must be just tremendous because it's like an everyday thing. Um, from the media side, like how do you manage being a beat reporter for a baseball team?
Oh, it's just a huge animal. I mean, and it's probably changed a fair amount just in the 10 years since I've been out, but I mean, it got to the point where you'd write a blog in the morning just to kind of engage your readers, and then you show up to the ballpark by about 3:30 at the latest. They open the clubhouse to reporters, and you go in the clubhouse before batting practice. You're interviewing players, you're kind of waiting on guys to finish card games or getting their treatment, and you're building up a notebook. You write news, tidbits, trends, anything you could come up with every day, and you file that story before the game. It used to be we'd take breaks and have a meal in the press box and talk to your co-writers and then cover the game, but the way deadlines ended up being with the internet and Twitter and everything, you just eat right through writing your notes, file before the end of the third inning at the latest, usually before the game, and then the game starts. You're covering the game. You got to file your story at the end of the game and then go downstairs to the clubhouse, interview players, come back up, update your story. And then sometimes, as you know, there'll be news that comes out of games. So you might be writing an additional story on top of your game story. So it's a full beat.
That's crazy. Yeah, so that's like an everyday schedule with 160 games a year.
Well, you definitely have to share it. When I was the number one beat writer, I do about 120 games, and I had a backup who would help with break up the travel a little bit. My last 8 years in Atlanta, I was the backup beat writer, but I was at every home game, which is 80 games, and then did about 20 road games. Um,
Wow,
so it's a monster, but you get
that's
really
incredible.
familiar. You don't have to do homework. You're there. You're just immersed in it. So it's fun in its own way. You gotta dive in and not worry about everything else. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it must be even more complicated. I know it's not like the 70s anymore, but being a woman in the industry in that kind of like boys club baseball world, what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it got to where I didn't even think about it. I think I was really fortunate being around the Atlanta Braves because they were a class and are a class organization that it was just understood from the top down that you don't mess with reporters, male or female, in a negative way. And they didn't. I mean, I can count on probably two fingers the number of times I had things happen that were awkward and not appropriate. And they were handled in a professional way. I've never been the kind who, like, would go crying to, social media or anything like that. We would just handle it with direct conversations and move on. So I feel lucky with that. And the nice thing is the access you get. I mean, I miss that, to be honest, a little bit, being around the soccer team, because you don't get that day in, day out interaction with the players, where you get to know them without, just conversationally. So there's definitely a trade-off, but it prepares you to be around sports, that's for sure. And I mean, I loved it. I was lucky, I guess, that I came along at a time where a lot of women had come before me, and kind of they had done the hard work, and I got to reap the rewards.
That's awesome. Now, I see that you went to Duke University. Can you tell me about how you got started in journalism? Was that at Duke, or did that come later?
That was about halfway through Duke. I can kind of give you try to do the highlight story. Just I was pre-med. My dad was a doctor, my sister's a doctor. I just thought that's what I was meant to do, and take organic chemistry and cell biology and all these things, and ended up pledging a sorority and doing working my rear end off to get a C in organic chemistry, and realizing that maybe this wasn't the route I wanted to take, and spent a summer. I was supposed to go to the Duke Marine Lab out in Beaufort, North Carolina, and my dad was like, "Your grades are not good. You're not going. Figure something else to do." So I went to live for the summer with my sister, who is in Georgetown at medical school, and in medical school, and I lived with her and six other medical students while they were about to take their board exams, and they were all absolutely insane. I don't know if, like, the board exam covers everything they've learned from books for the first 2 years of medical school, and once they, pass that, then they go on to clinical trial, or, clinical work in the hospital. So they were all insane. I'm looking around like, this is not for me. This as if I needed more than my grades to convince me. But that summer just happened to be when Coach K was just beginning to flirt with NBA teams, and there were rumors that he was going to go to the Celtics. And
Oh,
I stayed up late one night and crafted a letter to Coach K explaining why he couldn't possibly leave Duke, right? So, this is how my mind works at night. I've always been a night owl and just do crazy things at night. And I woke up the next day, and come to find out he was staying at Duke, all was well. That was dumb. What was the letter? What was I going to do? And I just told my dad about it, because he's been a Dookie. I watched Duke with him my whole life, and he asked me to send him to the letter, so I did, and he read it, and he was like, "Wow, you've got a gift. You got a skill here. This is a great letter. You should send it to him." And it was really the first time that I had thought about writing, because when you're in high school and college, you write papers and literary criticism and history, this and that, and I was really good at signing yearbooks and writing notes and things like that, and it took me somebody else helping me figure out, hey, maybe you're pretty good at this. So I kind of combined the two things, that I really, hey, maybe I'm pretty good at conversational kind of writing, and I love sports, so let's try and put them together. So that's what I did.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah. So getting more back into the Charlotte FC on my side anyway. What are your expectations going in for this season? You follow this team very, very closely, and I think we would be remiss if we had you on here and didn't get your take on what you expect this season.
Right. I do think it's funny that everybody loves to set bars out at the beginning of the season and then see if they're going to hit it or not. And I'm like, I just look at Dean Smith and I say they're going to be better. I know everybody's talking about top four. That wouldn't surprise me, but I do think in a way this year it's going to be harder, because they're not going to sneak up on anybody. But I think they'll be better, or you would hope they'd be better offensively, because I think defensively they were pretty darn good, and I think that's the natural progression where they want to get better. So, I expect it'll be a fun season, and I mean, the last three have been. There's never a dull moment around this team, as you guys know.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Like I said, the Futbol Friday newsletter is essential. It's great reading. I find it to be that kind of perfect length where it's very readable, the once a week format, and there's always kind of a narrative focus. Can you tell me about creating that newsletter and your objectives?
Yeah, well, I kind of I'm not supposed to say I make it up as I go along, am I? It's it really is. It's like a combination of things, right? I mean, my main objective really is to kind of catch people up on the week, to be a service for readers of the Ledger who may not be on Twitter 24/7, seeing news come in little bits, or be on every podcast. So I'm trying to cover the bases and make sure if you love this team, if you want to know what's going on, if you're going to sit down and watch a game on Saturday, I bring you up to speed. I let you know all the important stuff that you need to know. Secondly, I want to bring you stuff that you haven't seen in other places, even if it's just giving context to news that you've already heard, explaining why something's important. I mean, I think you know, not everyone's a diehard soccer fan. Not everyone understands global soccer, and a lot of these names come across and people don't know who the heck they are. So I'm trying to learn and explain to people so they're not intimidated, so they can get to know the team without feeling like it's hard work. But also appealing to the people who, trying to be, engaged and know enough to keep the people happy who are the soccer diehards.
Yeah, and that's a great point because obviously we try to stay as plugged in as possible, to all the latest news and gossip. But when I read your column, it's, you know, refresher on a lot of things for me, but then there's always a few nuggets that I find in there that are new or interesting or kind of frame things in a different way. Um, so I appreciate that. I mean, like I said, it's a great read. I highly recommend it to everybody. Um, let me ask you, maybe this is a tougher question, but one of the most impressive things you did, and it kind of struck me at the time as, you know, the number one type of reason we need real capital J journalists covering Charlotte FC was back in, I think it was the first season, we had an off the pitch incident where several members of Charlotte FC got caught up in a situation that I don't think was ever fully resolved in the public eye. But your coverage was incredible because you went out and you got the police reports that kind of shifted that coverage. Trying to
Yeah,
think of
that
the
one.
the most delicate way to phrase this,
No,
but
you're doing good. You're doing good.
we've had some pushback from some fans who think that the coverage of Charlotte FC or any sports team should only be positive, and if reporters are digging up negative information, that it goes against the interests of the fans. I believe the polar opposite. I think that that holds teams accountable, holds players accountable, and pushes everybody to do better. What is your philosophy on that?
Right. I mean, I still believe in it, and I still think it's really important because there's so much generated now from teams themselves and fans, and they're happy to send out good news, but then when something happens, like what happened there, and they're not answering the questions, and the question there was lingering, and it was it's one of those that was a in the gut thing, like what is going on, because it was after it was the start of the second season when Shinshiki and Santos were all of a sudden out of the lineup, and for no apparent reason. And to me, when you've got contributors like that who are making decent money, they're, you know, significant part of the team and they're not playing, I just wanted to find out why. Um, and the team had their reasons for keeping it quiet. The league had their reasons for keeping it quiet, but I feel like at that point it's my responsibility to the fans and to the readers to explain what happened. And I just cast the net. I mean, I'm just in my history with covering baseball and other sports. If there's something that quiet, you better start checking the police reports. And that's what I did. I, worked some sources and then got just showed up at the police station and asked for some reports, and sure enough, some answers started coming. I didn't get all the answers, but I think we got enough to know why those were their last days with the club.
Absolutely. And once again, like I feel like that is a value and that is important. And with Charlotte FC, there are not that many beat reporters. There are not, we don't have the coverage that a pro team would have had 20 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. So once again, thank you for that. And I'll turn it over to Cole.
Before he does the rapid fire, I just want to say thanks again for coming on, Carroll. We really appreciate your work and what you do to cover this team. And we look forward to seeing you at some games this season.
Thanks, Cole. I appreciate it.
All right, on to the fun stuff. So, Carol, on the media series, we want to help the folks get to know you a little bit. So, I got some rapid fire questions here. First up, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Turn the Page by Bob Seger. I'm showing my age.
Ooh, good one. Good one. I like it. All right, if you could only watch one movie for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Out of Africa.
Okay, tell me about that.
Meryl Streep, Robert Redford. It's amazing storytelling. It's just a beautiful, beautiful movie.
Classic. Okay, I dig it. So you went to Duke University. Tell me about Durham, North Carolina, your favorite local food to that area or restaurant, or what would it be if someone is visiting Durham for one day and you had to take them somewhere in that area?
Well, you got to go see Cameron Indoor Stadium and visit just West Campus just to walk around. The Gothic architecture's one of a kind, beautiful. And then if you want something to eat, you just go over to Ninth Street. We used to get bagels and yogurt and stuff like that, but now they have all these amazing restaurants. They've extended it on down. So yeah, Ninth Street for something to eat.
Oh, there we go. That's the good stuff. All right, Carol Walton, thank you so much. Tell the folks where they can find you, where they can subscribe, and you know, plug your socials. What do you got?
I'm on Twitter and I go by my maiden name on Twitter. So it's at Carroll Rogers, Carrollrogers. And we're on Substack, but you can sign up with the subscription on my ad is free. We're coming to you with all our information without any paywall. It's at thecharlotteledger.com. And I also tweet out a link every Friday to my Futbol Friday, so it should be easy just to pick it up there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time here and big season coming up. So we're very excited. As always, it's for the crown, and we're the Queen City Soccer Show at QCS Pod on socials. I'm at LVLUP_Luke. That's my partner at Cole_Godfrey. And we will see you guys next time on the media series and on the Queen City Soccer Show.
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Cole.
Yeah, thank you.